So this game is Fischer versus Taimanov in 1970, white to play. So this so I'm gonna read a little intro from the book here. So the position in the diagram is an endgame. However, White must react sharply if he is to prevent Black from achieving an ideal setup with his knight on the wonderful c5 square here. What are the imbalances? Well, White has queenside pawn advantage versus Black, who has a majority on the king side. The main imbalance is the active bishop versus a rather unassuming black knight. Notice how White's two imbalances are working together. The bishop's sphere of influence and the white pawn majority are both on the queen side. All this seems nice for White, but Black threatens to eat a free pawn on h4 with a check. He also would like to play knight e4 when White can either give up his strong bishop or allow the black knight to reach its dream square on c5. A post that would stop the white pawns dead in their tracks. How can White stop all these threats? The answer is that he cannot. If White wants us to make use of his differences, he must give up the h4 pawn, not wasting time on defense, and turn his queenside majority into a powerful passed pawn. So the sequence starts with pawn to c5, making use of the pin because if the pawn takes, we eat the rook for free. So Black's going to take advantage by taking this pawn for free with a actually. Okay. So White plays c5. Black takes the pawn. And White moves the king out of the way. Black replies with rook b4. And then White responds by playing rook takes b4, and this gets an exclamation point. Sharon Bertman pointed out the interesting possibility of instead rook b3, rook takes, knight d7, c6, knight c5, rook takes b6, and c7. And Black cannot stop this pawn. I found this most enlightening. Her rating at the time was 2175. She immediately made master and became the U.S. women's champion, but she saw the importance of time over material, i.e. giving up the h-pawn so her majority can make itself felt, and even found a pretty alternative to Fischer's method of play. Does this mean that most experts would find all these moves? No. I think the majority would not come close. Sharon, though, had been well versed in imbalances and understood her bishop and majority had to take precedence over every other consideration. So after rook takes, or a takes b4, rook c4, and b takes c5, and rook takes c5. The point of Fischer's play is the passed a pawn is impossible to stop since the bishop covers the queening square. So play continues with king g7, pawn a5, rook e8, and rook c1 gets an exclamation point. Rooks belong behind passed pawns, so White hastens to place his rook on a1. Note that Black wanted to do the same thing because he threatened to play rook e1 check, followed by rook a1, like that. So play continues rook e5, rook a1, rook e7, king f2, knight e8, pawn a6, rook a7, king e3, knight c7, and bishop b7. So now the black rook is permanently locked on this square on a7. It can't move. It's more or less locked out of the game. It continues knight e6, rook a5, king f6, king d3, King e7, king c4, king d6, rook d5 check, king c7, and king b5, and black resigns. This example shows us how positional considerations, in this case it's a pawn majority and a bishop versus a knight, often need to be supported by tactics. When I gave this position to a student of mine rated 1700, I hoped for nothing more from him than the realization that quiet play might allow my knight to c5, when white's majority would be stopped and turned into a possible target, because the c5 knight would attack the pawn on a4.